Greetings, listeners. This is September of 2019, and welcome to the Underground Book Club, where we discuss free, self-published books or writing topics that we uncover in the depths of the internet. I'm Jake.
I'm Chris.
Today, we're going to be discussing...
We're going to discuss ourselves and our experiences with writing.
How come we feel like we wanted to do a little extra episode like this?
Well, mostly because we're going to be so busy in September and October that we're cheating a little bit and filling in some episodes because we won't have time to read the books together.
Read books, and then of course we figure audiences might really like an episode where we just talk about the writing process. Some authors out there may need to know this stuff.
Well, yeah, maybe y'all can relate to the problems we've bumped into.
And plus, we'll just be our amusing selves about this whole thing.
Well, we spend a lot of time nagging about other people's work, and it wouldn't hurt for us to admit that we have had considerable
efforts and setbacks, absolutely,
and
because
it happens to everybody.
Absolutely, and to not let those setbacks deflate you. Hell, it might end up that episodes like this are more popular than the ones where we talk about something specific.
I predict that all of our episodes will be equally popular.
Awesome. So, Chris, before we really dig into our established topics for the day, did you have any news or anything you wanted to bring up?
Well, I'm just about to publish book 6 in my Supernatural series.
Awesome, that's great.
And I'm self-publishing it. So
you've self-published so far. Cool. Are you excited about this book?
I am. It's taken me a long time to get it done because I had about a year where I went into sort of a lockup on writing, and
you hit a kind of a wall?
I hit a wall with my book series, so I had to turn to something else, and that's when we wrote Dark Web.
Ah, of course. Did I kind of help get you out of the rut?
Oh, having a good friend always helps.
Absolutely.
And especially somebody who keeps pushing you to write.
Yeah.
And then time helps too.
Time helps everything, you know.
And I think what is an important thing is that if you are stuck on one project, maybe step away from it and try something else for a while.
That's kind of what I am doing too.
So tell us your news.
Okay, well, as I discussed time previously, I am doing 12 novellas, 12 months, where every month I write a whole little novella, and it's going to be, at the end of the month, published on Smashwords.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That sounds great. Great.
Actually, I think this is the first time you've mentioned actually publishing.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to publish them, no matter what.
Is that for our listeners to...
Yeah.
To go and have a look
at them. To go and have a look at them, yeah.
So you're going to make them free?
Exactly. Oh, they're absolutely free. Absolutely. So September is going to be the first official start date for me. And in September, my first novella is called Vorpal. Carol, she's come back from a 10-year stay in Wonderland. It's based on Alice in Wonderland. And she's returning to the high school she used to attend. And she meets one of her former classmates, Derek, who's now this jerk musclehead. And
Oh, okay, I don't want to say too much.
What?
I was going to say, and he's got like a band.
Yeah, absolutely. He's really an irresponsible dude. And so Carol and Derek are going to kind of trade. It's like going to be a fish out of water story for both her and him.
Folks, Jake is a very ambitious writer because in September he's promised me that he's going to get back to work on Magenta.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is a brilliant little young adult sci-fi novel
that we're working on
together. And so, but he's the captain on that one, and so I can't do anything till he gives me a project.
Oh, of course. And don't worry, that's coming your way.
Yeah. No, trust me, guys. If Jake says he's going to write this much, it is entirely possible that he will.
You know what?
I'll kind of crank stuff out.
I'll see how it works, because it might turn out I'm like, oh god, this is way too much. But I'm kind of setting up my little apartment where, I'm setting up a room in our bunker where I can totally work I could totally work on this in a good fashion.
Well, my advice to you would be, as long as you're having fun.
Oh, it's a ton of fun,
keep
yeah.
at it.
And I'm glad I'm gonna update the show on this, because whenever I kind of tell Chris about it, she's like, she kind of seems like, wow, this is definitely not something I'm gonna be doing.
I think it's a huge sounding project. The only thing, I don't think you'll stop. I wouldn't say they had to be 40,000 words long.
I guess I'm not really saying they have to be. That's what I'm guessing they're gonna end up being.
That's a fairly good sized novella right there. I would just write the story and let it be as long as it wants to be.
You know what? That's fair. I'll see. As long as it has beginning, middle, and end, I'll see how long it can be. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, length is something you only have to worry about when you've got a publisher breathing down your neck.
That's fair. That's fair.
We don't.
We
that's
don't.
Why we're here.
Yeah, that's why we're here, of course. All right, you're absolutely right. Well, so I've been kind of chatting about this. We don't have to do our topics in any specific order. How about you start off with the story you wanted to tell? How do we segue into this with your family disowning you?
So my family disowned me. Now that's not true.
Not all your family, just one of your family.
I had not a whole lot of family left on that side of my family, but.
So how do we segue into this? All right. It's
I thought we already had. I was talking about it already.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have much family left on my father's side of the family. They've all like died and stuff, but so I have this,
oh my god.
Well, okay, they're super religious people.
Right.
And this is the kind of like good old Southern Baptist religious where mostly anything's a sin. There's a faction of people who are religious who think that books about the occult are sinful and shouldn't be read, and most certainly should not be written.
So the father side of your family kind of took they went to church.
Oh
their family went to church. So then they see you, who doesn't go to church and who writes books about the occult.
I write occult books. Well, the thing is, I mean, I haven't actually had a lot of contact with this side of my family for a long time. It's been a long time. But, we'd exchange Christmas cards and stuff. So then, just about the only member of that family who's left who pays any attention to me was my great aunt. And she'd always send me Christmas presents and birthday cards. And I don't really know if this is true, but if anybody was ever going to leave me money, she would have been the one who would have done it.
Okay, all right.
I think she might
You
have...
mean like in her will?
Like in her will.
Okay, yeah.
All right. So, I mean, I don't know if that's even true, and I don't know if she even has any money. All I'm saying is, if I had a relative who was going to leave me unexpected money,
it would have been her.
Expecting it to be her,
right?
So it wouldn't have been unexpected.
But then this family member, this church-going family member, takes notice that you write less than Christian works.
It's Facebook. It's Facebook. She got on Facebook and she got a Facebook membership and wanted to friend me.
Okay,
but see, my Facebook account is my author account, Christina Harlan, author. All right, now here's how strict my family was. They didn't know I wrote books. I didn't tell them about it because I didn't want to hear it. I was just like, they won't like the subject matter. I never mentioned it. They never asked. She found my books through Facebook. And first I get this email or Facebook message. It's like, oh my goodness, you write books. That's wonderful.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my little Chris, that's so wonderful.
You write books. Okay. Then a little bit of time goes by.
Oh no.
I'd say maybe a month or 6 weeks, and then I get a card in the mail.
Oh no.
And it's not like a birthday card or anything.
It's like a card.
It's a card, and she's written
no.
in it, she's written that I need to rethink my life.
Wow.
And the effect that I'm having on my family.
Holy crap.
That I have a responsibility to lead a good life, and I mean, it was actually pretty accusatory.
Whoa.
So at first, I was going to write back and be like, mind your own business.
What?
I do.
Holy crap! Okay, so they just saw your catalog and they kind of looked into your catalog of writing and they were just like, oh my god, what do you think they saw? Do you think they saw a deck of cards?
Well, I don't know.
My boss is a serial killer.
My books have like love scenes in them. They have swearing, not a lot, but some.
Deck of cards or
deck of cards deals with making deals with the
devil, and then other naturals deals with
other
ghosts.
Naturals is all supernatural stuff.
Wow.
And then the boss books are just kind of naughty.
But it's not like the main characters in your book. They're like, we do this because we don't like Jesus.
No, of course not. But that's not the point.
Yeah.
They're like. These are the same people who would say that children should not read Harry Potter books.
Oh my god.
Because it's like a gateway to witchcraft.
Okay,
like,
so
everybody's entitled to their beliefs, and that's why when I almost wrote back to my aunt to say, you know what, you might want to mind your own beeswax.
Whoa.
I almost did, but then I was like, no, this is what she believes, and actually, it's kind of brave of her to come at me like that.
Well, in a card.
Even though I thought it was, well,
That's,
you're right.
It's not nice.
It made me feel kind of lousy.
But she had to come at it like, you're definitely doing something wrong and you need to change.
Okay, so what happened was, I didn't reply tersely to her. I just wrote back to her and pretended like she had just sent me an ordinary letter. I just wrote back and I'm like, Dear Aunt so-and-so, it was great to hear from you. Hope everything's going well. Enjoying your vacations and your retirement. Well, have a great summer.
Yeah, but
love, Chris.
That's like what I know about women, that's like the ultimate negative response, is to pretend like they didn't say anything at all.
Well, maybe I did that aggressively. Do you think it was passive aggressive?
Pat, maybe she looked at it like, oh my gosh, she's not heeding my words at all.
Well, I didn't heed.
Yeah, exactly. So they're like, they're not going to listen to us, well, we're just not going to bother with talking to her.
And that's the thing. They haven't spoken to me since.
Oh, no. And now they're not going to leave you any money in their will.
I doubt that was actually a thing that was going to happen anyway. I just was always making a joke about it, like, because she doesn't have any kids of her own. That's the thing. But she does have, like, her church and a ton of friends and
we could have inherited $500.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it would have been a big whopping chunk of change. But all right, so yeah, I sent her back the letter that's like, great to hear from you.
Holy crap.
I was really just trying to be fair.
Yeah, no, that's a very nice response.
I was like, I'm not going to engage in this conversation. I'm not going to stop writing. And I'm sorry it offends you, but...
What drama. I'm lucky that all the family members I know have been nothing but encouraging with me with my writing, and I'm serious.
It doesn't happen that way with everybody.
Oh, of course. And then, some people are really brave to continue with their passions despite their own family saying no,
Well...
It can be kind of hard to get shot down by your family. It can be really deflating.
It was not deflating. It's not like her opinion was the only one that mattered to me. It was not a surprise.
Okay.
I mean, why do you think I hadn't told my family?
That's fair.
I knew this was going to be the reaction. So anyway, I haven't heard from her in years, and I don't get Christmas presents anymore, and I don't get birthday cards.
Oh, wow.
And I imagine
nasty.
If there was a will leaving me all that sweet, sweet money.
$400.
That money is gone.
Man, all right.
It's probably being donated to some sort of charity for rescuing
I have an idea.
Satanic writers or something.
I have an idea. One of my 12 novellas is going to be Coming to Jesus. And I'm going to write it, and it's going to be about you, and I'm going to send it to her. And she's going to be like, oh, Jake understands. And then she'll leave me money.
Okay, and when she leaves you all that money, will you take me out to dinner with it?
Absolutely.
That's really nice of you.
No problem. It's nice to get out of the bunker every now and again.
If they'll let us out, it's nice to get out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
so that's
cool.
my stupid story about my stupid family.
Well, speaking of stupid families being stupid, I would like to talk about how sometimes your test readers don't come. They don't
come through.
They don't come through for you. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this takes me a little back. This was about 3 years ago, and I wrote my very first full novel. I got a great job, and I was able to have a lot of time to myself to actually. Oh, I was out of college, and so I was actually able to sit down and really write. And I was like, oh my god, I could really write a full novel. And I did it, I came up, it was just a little idea. It's called Bloodline, and it was about 2 vampire cops solving a vampire case. I was really proud of the fact that I actually accomplished it. I didn't have if I lacked anything, it was just a very end chapter. But besides that, it was done,
Right, I recall that it was like, it pretty much got to the end, but it didn't conclude.
Right, if it had a climax but no epilogue. How about that? And so it was 83,000 words.
No, it was a legit...
And nearly 300 pages. It was a goddamn big book. And you know how proud I was of it? I was
think you were very proud of it.
I was like jittery with excitement. I was like, oh, I can't wait. The reason I wrote a book about 2 vampires doing their vampire thing, another occult book, by the way, I just want to say,
you need to rethink your life.
Two vampires doing their vampire things because I'm heavily involved in Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop games, and I've had a steady roleplay group for 8 years. Yeah, seriously.
Long time.
One of our games was with White Wolf and Vampire the Masquerade, if anyone knows that, and we had this whole campaign about vampires, and I was so inspired by it. I had stacks of my book. Oh my god, it was like a kid with Christmas presents. It was so wonderful. Anyway, so I gave you a copy, and of course you read through the whole thing because you're awesome. And you give me endless great advice.
I like the way he says endless.
Endless. Oh, absolutely.
Endless advice.
Yeah, and it was all awesome. Thank you.
Okay, but let me just say, folks, I'll interject here that while it had some technical difficulties, it was actually a pretty darn good story.
Well, I tell you, I knew it needed work. I printed it out. I didn't print it out.
It was a first draft.
It was a first draft.
Or like a first and a half draft.
So, because it was based on a D&D story that me and my friends were all involved in, I wanted to give a copy to all my core friends. And I thought, I want to give them one. And I was not expecting them to like it. In fact, I kind of wanted them to tear it apart. I wanted them to give it a Gordon Ramsay treatment where they trash it down and I could rebuild it, I needed to know, as a writer, what I was good at and what I needed work on.
Okay, but now...
So they're my
test.
What I'm saying is it was really important for them to look at it and tell me something. I gave it to all my friends, 5 friends. One of my friends got about halfway through the book. That's Nick. He read half of it, and he did give me some good advice. Another one of my friends read the first 2 chapters. The others did absolutely nothing with it. They didn't even open it. They forgot it existed, and every time I reminded them, it was like I was telling them that they needed to refinance their home. Okay, how about this? If you're listening to this, and if someone gives you a book and says, I poured a lot of effort into this, could you at least try and read it? Read a bit before bed. It's
not like you expected them to have it read in a week.
No, I don't.
You gave them several months.
Honest to God, I didn't even expect them to read the whole thing. Maybe, read the first 2 chapters like that other guy did, and maybe that would be alright, but they didn't even look at it that long.
So there would be some value in them saying, well, I read 2 chapters and didn't really ever
Jake,
get back to it.
this is boring as tar. I can't read this. And that would have been helpful. But no.
They didn't even try.
Yeah. A flat-out negative statement saying, you suck, do it again. That would have helped a lot more than them saying, oh, I've never once touched it. That is lame, man. That's like when you gave that one guy a Christmas present and it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Not
still,
open.
Still.
You would have been one thing if he opened it and drank some of the stuff and been like, oh, this is awful. Like, that's sure, that's one thing.
Still sitting on the floor.
Unopened.
It's half open.
Half open.
He opened it far enough to see what it was and set it on the floor, and now, what, 8 months later, 9 months later, it still sits there.
That is crazy. Come on.
Guys, it's booze. I mean, why would you not... I wish your friends had tried for you.
At least tried.
I believe there is a human tendency to, if somebody gives you something to do, automatically you feel like it's homework and you resist it. Have you ever had somebody unsolicited hand you a movie and say, you have got to watch this?
That's okay. Yes, that's right.
Now,
that's different because they're like, oh, I made this movie. I need you to look at it.
Well, now, if somebody made a movie, I'd watch it. And if my friend handed me a book and said, I wrote this, will you look at it? I would.
You've done that for me?
I understand what it's like to need people to read your book.
Oh, my God.
You only get so far on your own. Somebody's got to read it.
Yeah, and then maybe my friends did read a bit of it, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't my thing," and I don't want to tell Jay because I don't want to hurt his feelings.
It could be.
So maybe.
So what's our point to the audience?
All I'm saying is, if you are a test reader for somebody, read their stuff at least a little bit, and tell them, be honest. Be honest and say, this is boring. I can't read this.
Right.
Tell them that. Because if you tell them nothing, that's worse than being honest and being critical. Just to kind of give an epitaph to that, I wrote a second book that was Magenta, which you and I are working on together. You read all through Magenta, and then my friend Nick, he really came through for me on Magenta. He read through the whole thing.
Nick is a pretty good.
Yeah, he's my excellent test reader. He's like my secondary because he is so picky.
Yeah.
He nitpicks the crap out of things, but you need that because if he nitpicks it, then I'm able to fix it, and then no one else can nitpick it. It's great.
Just remember, folks. If somebody's trying to write, it is awfully nice to at least give them a little feedback.
Yeah. Tell me about your experience with Agent Orange.
Agent Orange. Okay. As y'all know, because I complain about it often enough, I, for a while, had a literary agent and a publishing contract, and that all went haywire. But let's talk about Agent Orange right now.
I love her name, too.
Well, here's why I call her Agent Orange.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, because she was an agent, and then secondly, because she did this to me.
Oh, my God.
She had 2 manuscripts from me.
From you?
Yes, 2
okay.
manuscripts from me. And I liked both books the way I sent them to her. I said, these are the 2 books I've written, and she agreed to represent me on them. She's like, we just need to make a few changes before we start sending this out.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, okay, whatever.
You were super ready for this.
I was so psyched to have an agent. I was like, whatever you want me to do, I will do it. And she'd do this. She'd go, this book is great, but it's a little bit hard to follow in this part. I don't know if people are going to understand what happened, and
oh my God.
Maybe you should make it easier to understand what happened. And I'd be like, okay, I'm following you. And I'd go through and I'd like explain more carefully.
Okay, all right.
And then she'd say, no, this doesn't really work. What I need you to do is maybe throughout the book there's like a narrative voice that I don't know that this voice is working for me. And I'd be like, okay, what voice do you want to hear then? And she'd be like, I don't know, it just all needs to be more orange. Okay, now that's not...
She didn't actually say that.
She didn't say orange, but she'd be very vague. She would never tell me what she wanted. But she would say, it needs needs to
needs
be
a little
not
bit of,
this.
It needs some pizzazz.
It just needs to be not this.
I like your book, but I need something completely different.
Yes, I would like you to change it a lot. So
a little, but everything.
both of these books, I sent her 5, maybe 6 different versions of one of them.
And I bet you were just sick of changing these books that you liked.
The other one I sent her a couple of versions, but the thing was, both of these books, I was pretty darn happy with them the way they were. I didn't like what she was asking me to do, but then again, I was like, but I've got an agent now. Do you know how hard it was to get an agent?
I bet.
No matter what I did to try to please her, it was never what she meant.
This is like if you wrote up a homework assignment and turn it into your teacher, and he like circles a paragraph and writes like question mark next to it.
Yeah, it was
underlines a sentence.
It was very vague, and I would think I knew what she meant, and I'd make the change, and it wouldn't be what she meant, and the books went through this transformation where they just got worse and worse. Like they were growing away from my original idea.
God, I'm like hurting inside hearing this.
It was excruciating.
And I bet this wasn't a process that took like 2 days. I bet this
went on for months.
Oh.
This went on for months.
Oh
okay.
God, I want to drink some cough syrup now. Holy crap.
She wanted changes, and I was like, okay, I'm trying, and then, oh my God, then I'd finally get a book to where she wasn't happy with it, but she'd shut up about it for a minute.
Oh God.
Then I'd get an email from her. She's like, I just hired a new young man here at the agency. He had a look at your book, and he thinks, blah, 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 that you should do this and this and this. And I'd be like, oh, you are kidding me.
What the hell?
Now you've got somebody else telling me to make completely different changes. Sometimes I'd make the changes she wanted. She'd ask for something else. I'd make those changes. And then she'd come back and say, I don't like the way this is happening. And it would be the changes she had asked for the time before that. So.
Oh, God.
Here's the deal. Here's what I did.
Get a better agent.
Getting an agent is so
hard. I know.
I was trying so hard. So I thought, here's the problem. I'm not writing in genre enough. I gotta get a genre. I'm not easy to pigeonhole.
Right.
And I'm not saying that like I'm bragging on myself. Oh my God, I wish I could be in a pigeonhole. It's so much easier to get published.
If you have a genre.
But I don't do real well with writing in a pigeonhole.
I get you.
All right, so but I did. I wrote a boss book, and it was a comedy, and it was chick lit, and I gave it to her. That was the book she managed to get a publication deal on. She never got a deal on the 2 books she agreed to represent.
So you just said, screw it. How about I write it for a genre?
I wrote a whole new book. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of dealing with this. Here's a book. And she was like, oh, I can totally get this sold. And she did. She got it sold.
Wow.
And then that other crap happened, which we are not going to talk about right now. Agent Orange.
What is the lesson with Agent Orange?
Here's what happened. And this is the lesson in the end. She ended up, after the fiasco with the publishing company, she ended up just firing me as a client. She's like, I can't sell your stuff, I'm sorry. And she said, it's not you, the market sucks right now, and you don't write in genre very well.
You're not orange enough.
You're not orange enough. And she said, good luck. And she says, maybe you ought to try self-publication. Well, then I did. And what I found out was self-publication never tells you you're not orange enough.
Oh, never.
You just publish it. So you know what I did? I went back to my 2 original books. I put them exactly back the way I wanted them, the way I had them in the first place.
Yeah.
And published them.
Wow.
And I'm like
cool.
Perfectly happy with it.
That's
Here's
awesome.
the lesson. You have got to be happy.
You've got to be happy with your writing, absolutely. And also, if you're giving critical feedback to somebody, be specific, please.
Help out with a little bit of specificity.
Holy crap.
All right, so that's my Agent Orange story.
Agent Orange story.
Underground Book Club will be back after this important message. Hello, Mort Hambone here with the Saladin Paladin, and just goes to show you that anybody can take some loud bangy music and put it on their commercial and make it sound like they're doing something special when actually it's just a bunch of wood. You don't need any more wood. People can get their own wood, and anyway, Salad is come down to the Saladin Paladin when we get some salad. It's the best salad in the realm. My commercials are, I tried to do this the nice way, but some people, they just, listen, Dad, just leave me alone, okay? Come to the Saladin Paladin, put some salad in you. We now return to Underground Book Club.
Well, how about I get into... Oh, I know. How about a good writing tip for anyone out there?
Okay.
If you need practice. So, here's the thing. This is a story that I guess starts about a couple years ago for me. So I had my two projects, and I kept revising Bloodline and Magenta over and over. I kept revising them like crazy. And I was like, this is nice, but it's not getting me much writing experience. I'm not practicing when I'm just revising. And I'm like, I need a good thing to practice. So I wanted a story that I could write down that I didn't have to worry about, the world building details and the plot, and I didn't want to have to start from scratch on another story.
What kind of writing would let you do that?
Oh, well, I guess you could do some fan fiction.
Fan fiction!
Because what you do with fan fiction is that someone else has already made a world for you, and you can just write characters in the world.
You can.
Alright, so I would like to think that the public perception of fan fiction has improved in the last couple years.
Well, I have never had a problem with it.
Well, I think a lot of people associated fan fiction with being really poorly written, schlocky, weird, pornographic sex scenes and weird shipping and whatnot. And I think, that's definitely going on still.
That's
in fact,
only 90%.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the public perception is more so that fan fiction can be a tool for some great works, especially because, goddamn, most of our big movie franchises are all fan fiction. All the Marvel movies are fan fiction. All the Star Wars movies are fan fiction. All of the last few seasons of Game of Thrones have been fan fiction. You can't get away from fan fiction anymore. It's just gonna happen.
Well, the wonderful thing about fan fiction is if you write a story that you love and it's good, and
you can turn it into something else.
You can turn it into your own thing.
Yeah.
Usually all you have to do is change a few names. But let's talk about what happens when somebody writes good fan fiction.
Well, that's not what I did. What all I'm saying is, look, I had a couple of little series that I wrote based on other things. The first was based on the Worm web series. If anyone knows what Worm is, it's about, it's this really long, super depressing web series. It's got...
But you love it.
Well, no. Here's the thing. Worm is one of the most interesting settings I've ever read in my life. And the author is one hell of a good author.
Okay.
But his main character drives me nuts.
Oh, I see.
His main character, Taylor Herbert, is the most depressed, sad, miserable lady in the world. And and it's in first person. You ain't getting away from this lady.
Okay.
She is so miserable all the time. And so I'm like, God, I love this setting, but I hate our main lead. And so I wrote fan fiction about a couple of superheroes who are dealing with, yes, a negative situation. They're dealing with a really bad scenario, but I wanted my story to be about silver linings and looking on the bright side. And I wanted them to kind of triumph over a really bad thing. And so that was really my first experience I had with tackling themes and a premise. And I got a lot of good writing practice out of that because I wasn't so worried about getting my thing in a published state. I was just worried about making it a good story. And so that really helped me out. The second one I did was based on Death Note. And while I really dug the idea, I was just never sure what I was going to do with it. And then my third thing, which I really still want to do something with, is based on, get this, you're never going to guess, it's based on Universal's Dark Universe. That was when Universal wanted to cash in on the Marvel trend, and they wanted to make their own cinematic universe with the Universal horror movie monsters. That is the most awesome idea I've ever heard.
I also love that idea.
I love that idea so much, and they made The Mummy, and The Mummy is so bad. It's so bad, and it crashed and burned the entire premise, and now Universal's like, nah, never mind. And I'm like, no, please make this. And so I was so heartbroken by that. I'm like, I'm making my own version of the Dark Universe, and in my head, the characters were using the actors that they were going to have. I had the Invisible Man, and literally in my head, he was Johnny Depp. It was,
really?
Yeah, seriously. It was going to involve Javier Bardem. It was going to involve, God, who else was involved? Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll. He had his own book in my head. I love the idea of the Dark Universe so much. I might still do something with them. In my head, I had the Wolfman played by, oh god, who does Jim Hopper? What's his name? David Harbour. He was played by David Harbour, and I was just like, what am I even going to do with this? It's not like I'm going to shoot a movie, and I'm like, maybe I'll make like a radio series.
I'm always casting my books,
yeah,
too. I always picture, not when I'm writing it, but usually when I'm done, I start trying to figure out who I would put.
The roles.
When by some miracle, somebody hands me $40 million in a production studio and says,
wow,
go ahead and make a movie out of your book.
Christ. I'll help you with that.
Stars and
name your stars. And make sure not to get the huge stars you had earlier. Good lord, you need to scale down.
You need to scale down. You only have $40 million. You can't afford.
Well, and then the lesson I wanted to say with this experience with fan fiction is that I was able to get a lot of writing practice done, and I didn't have to worry about making it so good that I would want to publish it one day. I just wrote, and I ended up writing like 1,000 pages of stuff that involved fan fiction, and I was able to.
Writing improved immensely.
Immensely, yeah.
I like fan fiction too. In a way, nearly everything I write, I feel like starts off as fan fiction.
Well, sure. You're gonna get inspired by all kinds of stuff.
I am inspired, and then I think, if I were gonna do this, I would do it this way. I get inspired by computer games a lot.
Sure.
And I like him always.
Hey, you and I we might even still do this. We've got a whole series in our head based on Star Wars characters.
Right, we do have some Star Wars fanfic.
Oh, some. Good lord, you and I have come up with everything about this tale.
It's not strictly fan fiction. We've just taken basically their setting and we've kind of gone off in our own direction.
That's what happens. That's absolutely what happens.
And so, we would never plagiarize Star Wars, of course. We'd have to invent our own.
We might as well plagiarize Star Wars. Like half the books we read plagiarize Star Wars. Christ.
No, that's not plagiarism. That's just imitation.
I see.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, as they say.
Imitation leads to suffering.
Oh, hey, get him out of here.
Okay, I got it.
I'm sick of that little guy in here.
Get out of here, asshole. All right.
Well,
anyway,
thank you, Jake, for telling us about your experience with fan fiction.
Hey, speaking, like I said before, I loved it, and I didn't have to worry about publishing it. Some people, some authors, publish whatever the goddamn hell and just get a paycheck. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I would like to raise a complaint.
Oh, yeah,
Speaking of getting, all right, so you get published. Say you get an agent and you get published, and your book sells pretty well, and then you get published again, and you get published again, and then so 5 or 6 books down the road, say you've been writing in genre really well, and people, they like your stuff, and now you're a name. And so you are expected to turn out at least a book a year. I think major authors, they like it if they turn out a book about every year.
That's like most of their living, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm talking about people who like popular selling authors.
Popular selling authors enough to where just their name alone is like half the selling point.
Their name will sell the book.
Yeah.
And then at some point, some of these people decide it's okay to start half-assing it.
and are able to just publish whatever.
And so, like, there's a few books out there. No, there's more than a few. There's a lot of books out there that are not very good.
But that are published just because there's a big name on them.
They're written by people who should write well and good books, and they don't. They're like, their publishing company or somebody says, hey, we need a book.
We need
you have something.
We need 120,000 words by October. And they're like, oh crap, it's March.
Okay, well here's something. It's not very good. We don't care. We'll publish it.
Yeah, we just need something.
We just need your name on it.
And, okay.
All right. So
we want to, and so I guess that brings us to the worst example of this we could think of. And by worst, I mean this is probably the worst professionally published book we've ever read in our lives.
Now, and that's not, I mean, we haven't read all the books in the world, but this one made me furious.
Oh, absolutely.
It was called Guilty.
By
Karen Robards.
You were listening to Guilty on audiobook, and you were so appalled by this book that you had to have me listen to it too.
I was like, Jake, you've got to listen to this.
You've got to listen to this.
You won't believe how bad this book is.
It doesn't start bad. Like, its first chapter or so is, like, deceivingly alright.
I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
I think it's a terrible book from the beginning.
I think it's on degrees of bad. It starts off with, like, being, kind of bad, and then it quickly delves into
absolutely inexcusable badness.
Do we want to say what the plot is?
Not really.
I want to say what the plot is, because we're piquing the audience's interest, theoretically. We might as well.
Please,
okay,
feel free to go get a copy of it and put yourself through it.
It's basically about this woman named Kate White, and she's a lawyer.
When she was a teenager, she was a witness. Like, she and her friends, there was a robbery, her friends perpetrated it, and she witnessed the crime and saw one of her friends shoot a police officer.
Okay, right. And so now this person has come back in her life and is threatening her?
He makes a jailbreak, and she happens to be in the courthouse when he escapes from his hearing.
I already have a lot of questions. We're not even... Okay, so like,
and so he says, oh, you're going to help me get out of prison or something.
And then she's like,
I'm going to tell everybody what you did when you were 16. And she's like, but I didn't do anything. He's like, oh no, nobody's going to believe you. I'm going to tell them, me, a convict, they're going to believe me over you, a respected lawyer.
This book is already falling apart, and we're just trying to describe what happens.
So immediately she does a series of idiotic things to keep this guy from talking.
But thankfully, handsome Tom Braga comes in to help her out.
Handsome cop, and these two have, like, no chemistry. I've seen, like, seashells on the beach that are more romantically hot together than these two, but they're the most beautiful people in the city, apparently, and so they've got to be smashed together.
They are smashed together during the most nonsensical plot you've ever heard, and, like, Kate White has the most annoying son in the world.
Oh, she's got a horrible little boy.
And this plot could barely fill up, like, a novella that I'm gonna be writing in frickin' January. She fills endless paragraphs with the most monotonous descriptions of shit ever.
She describes things like the cup that Kate White keeps her pens in.
Yeah, she describes how umbrellas work. Like clothes that very minor characters wear.
Minor details on clothing. And so that's all really irritating. The story doesn't hold water for a minute.
Not a second, no.
And it's so bad that about halfway through, the author apparently just gives up and says, okay,
whatever.
I'm changing the plot now.
She pulls a Luke Cage, and the established villain dies, and another one
takes his place. And like, their plot doesn't make any more damn sense.
The author is more interested in like telling us about how Kate and Tom have a quick shag in the bathroom than she is about explaining anything about the story. And that oh my god, that made me so angry.
I am astonished by how bad this book is.
Yeah, it is.
And to anybody who has ever tried to get published before, it is infuriating to read a book that bad by an author who should know better. And that's what... I would never talk this way about a book we found for free on Smashwords. I try to give those people the benefit of the doubt because they're trying.
Karen Robards,
who is an established and best-selling author, doesn't have any right to put out a piece of crap like this. It makes me angry.
Oh yeah, same here. I want to give a specific scene example. And this is one of my favorite. I think you know what I'm talking about. I think
yes.
a specific scene example, and this will tell you exactly what you need to know. So, like, all the scene is trying to convey is that one of the bad guys wants Kay White to do a favor for them so they can do some bad guy stuff. That's it. That's all the scene is trying to establish. So how does this bad guy get into contact with Kate White? Well, apparently... Kay White goes to the courthouse on one random day. She goes to the women's bathroom just because she has to go to the bathroom. She sits down in the stall to look at her phone, and in the very stall next to her, this bad guy's sitting in there like, and he just says, Kay White.
Yeah,
I'm like, what? This guy, who knows how long he's just been sitting in there, hoping
all day
hoping that Kate White was gonna go in there.
Oh my God! I hope she picks this bathroom. Oh, I hope she picks the stall
next to me.
I hope the room isn't full of other women.
Other women, yeah. He had no other way to contact Kate White other than to sit in a bathroom stall in the women's restroom.
For her.
Well, and hopefully the bathroom was empty, by the way. Hopefully there wasn't a bunch of other women.
If there were other people in there, or any one of 100 things could have gone wrong, like...
Oh, holy crap. And then you and I laughed so hard at that scene. So, you and I hated Guilty so much, we wrote our own parody book.
Yeah, we wrote a parody called Dark Web.
Yeah, and if we are making fun of anything in that book, it's like romance novels in general, but we're making fun of Guilty. It is a dressing down of Guilty.
Yeah, well, Guilty had the most asinine plot ever, so...
Beth Gorgeous! And then he flushed the devil's toilet.
Yeah, are we gonna, we're gonna put that online, before long.
Isn't it? I thought it was online.
Oh no, it's on Smashwords.
Okay.
It is for sale on Smashwords and Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But what I mean is we're going to, like, do a voice recording of it.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do like an audio, yeah.
We'll have it up and y'all can listen to it for free.
Yeah, absolutely.
So...
Guilty. If you ever want an example, if you want to know what we think is the worst professionally published book out there, read Guilty and note of everything that the author does in it and do the exact opposite of what she does.
It's just terrible.
It's just terrible.
There's no excuse. There's no excuse. It's not fair. All right, so that's me ranting. She's not the only one.
Karen Robards.
I've never read any of your other stuff because of Guilty. I'm not interested in it.
But we bet.
But you probably have some pretty darn good books.
Yeah.
There are other authors out there who write bad books. And it's like you get to a point where you're not trying or something. However, there's a lot of authors I read just about everything they publish, and they very seldom put out a book that is less than at least acceptable.
I read everything that Yahtzee writes.
I mean, I read Stephen King stuff. Now, he's very much to my taste. He's not to everybody's taste. But he's put out very few books that I wouldn't at least call them entertaining. If not wonderful, you know.
Dean Koontz. He wrote a book called Darkfall. And that is in my top 5 favorite books of all time. I love Darkfall so much that I was like, I've got to read more of Dean Koontz. And then I tried to read like 3 of his other books, and I was like, no, this isn't as good.
Dean Koontz is very hit and miss.
Oh, Dean! Like friggin' Dean Koontz, man. He wrote one of my favorite books, and then he's like, his other books are just not living up to it.
He's sells very well. I don't.
God damn it! And then I looked up Darkfall stuff online, and like Canada was gonna make a movie about Darkfall, but they didn't, and I'm like, no, my dreams. Oh,
Shoot.
I love Darkfall so much.
So, but Dean Koontz, like I said, he's hit and miss. But his books, even when they're not to your taste, still I'd call them acceptable.
Sure.
They're like not...
Discount Stephen King.
They don't make you want to punch somebody.
No.
Guilty made me want to punch somebody.
Yeah, anybody, honestly. I got punched a couple times.
The people who published it, mainly.
People
who dared to put that out and charge for it.
All right.
So how are we doing for time?
We're doing really well.
We're really doing well.
Yeah,
we're keeping the pace. Okay.
Boom.
So we have time to talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
Writing practice.
As writing practice. So I know it sounds like I don't have a ton of writing practice. I've got some. I've written 2 full novels, and then I've done a lot of versions of those 2, and then I've done a lot of practice here and there with a lot of little ideas, but nothing major. The bulk of all of my writing practice came from writing for Dungeons and Dragons. To make sure our audience is on the same page here, Dungeons & Dragons is a tabletop game, and just to make it really brief, imagine you and like 5 of your friends, like 2 to 5 of your friends to get together to do basically a board game.
It's role-playing.
Yeah, it's role-playing. And then one person tells a story, everyone else makes up a character to participate in the story. There's rule sets and everything, there's dice to throw, it's a great time.
And there's kits you can buy that already have like pre-made stories.
Oh yes, of course.
That you can take your people through.
Or you could, if you really want to, you could make up your own stories.
And that's what you do.
That's what I did. And the setting doesn't have to be Dungeons and Dragons. It doesn't have to be swords and sorcery. Your setting can be whatever, honestly. If you can find a system that accommodates for it, your setting can be anything.
When you say a system that accommodates for it, you mean like
okay,
a way that it is fair, like the characters have to conform to certain guidelines.
Here's an example. Dungeons and Dragons is fantasy.
Right.
It has no rule sets on firearms. It has no rule sets on cars.
Right.
And stuff like that. But then, if you get something like Shadowrun or Cyberpunk, then they have rules on guns and cars and stuff, but they don't have rules on maybe like complex magic systems or anything.
Right. Okay.
So it depends. It depends on what you want your players to do and the setting to do. Anyway, so what I'm saying is, I have been doing Dungeons and Dragons for about 8 years now in some capacity. That's a third of my life that I have done D&D. Mm-hmm. I have probably written more than 1,000 pages on D&D notes. When I do a session of Dungeons & Dragons or any kind of tabletop game, I want to be prepared for it. So I write down plot points, I write down setting details, little world building details.
Write characters?
I write characters, and sometimes I even write dialogue because, if your players go to the big bad evil guy and the big bad evil guy has this intimidating speech, you don't want to improv that. You don't want him to sit there and be like, alright, y'all, so, man, I am an anti-paladin of chaos, and I'm here to wreck stuff and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of stuff. Oh, wait, crap. And
boy, are you gonna be sorry you walked into this bar and grill.
Bar and grill? Hold on, let me order a drink, and I'll be right with you.
I got some steaks cooking in the back. I'm gonna need to take care of them. Having heard many of your Dungeons & Dragons stories, I'm always amazed at how much work you put into your campaigns.
Yeah, a little too much.
Basically,
a little too much work most of the time.
You're writing like a novel setting that you're telling people to come in and do whatever they want in it.
Yeah.
That would drive me crazy. I can't believe this, y'all. Here's what happens. Jake will set up a very intricate situation with a ton of like cool possibilities, but then he doesn't make his friends do any of it. They're free to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So he can have a whole awesome story ready to go that they never get anywhere near.
The metaphor I like to use in my head is having a whole bunch of dogs on leashes. And if you have a whole bunch, you don't know what the dogs are going to do, but whenever you let go of their leashes, they're going to go do whatever.
Right.
So it depends on where you let the leashes go. If you let them go if you let the leashes go in the middle of a desert, they're just gonna run off and probably all die. But if you let the leashes go in a wonderful...
The doggies!
No, don't worry, that didn't actually happen.
Oh.
I didn't do that for research. But then, if you go to, like, a dog park with a lot of fun stuff in it and let the leashes go, the dogs are gonna have a good time. So my job as a DM is to get a bunch of dogs... Where was this going? Oh, right, make a fun dog park.
You were killing dogs in the desert,
Right.
I heard.
That's actually one of my novels that I'm going to be doing.
That's
the dog killing one.
That's December.
December.
Killing dogs
in the desert. Yeah.
If I had people and I had made a story for them and they were just dancing all around it, I'd not be able to be fair.
I've gotten a lot of my practice done with writing all of this stuff, and then I have been able to take a lot of Dungeons & Dragons stories that I have participated in or done throughout the years, and I've been able to turn those into a lot of tales. Bloodline is based on a Vampire of the Masquerade game. Lineage is based on a collection of all kinds of D&D characters I've made, and a scenario that I've been writing D&D situations for years now.
Yeah.
And I want to make that really good, and so honestly for me, D&D has been my biggest inspiration.
Well, and it's a great way to throw an idea out there and see what people
think, yeah.
And see what characters do in it.
They have no choice. You know what, with my friends, they have no choice but to participate in this story because their lives depend on it.
So we're not saying that Dungeons & Dragons is the solution to your problems. This is specific to Jake.
Yeah.
And maybe to some other people, I don't know. But maybe the point is, you never know where your inspiration and practice is going to come from.
You never know what you're going to experience that you're going to be able to incorporate into your writing.
Well,
even if you just take a road trip to some crappy little town.
Traveling is great for
something
writing.
Cool might happen
Traveling
to you.
is awesome. What I meant was, like, not everybody is going to be interested in playing a tabletop board game.
For like 4 hours even.
For as long as you all play at these marathon sessions, but it is very interesting that has been such an important part of your writing process.
Oh, and then of course, like people will say, like, "Oh, you can't really make a good story out of D&D games." Oh, trust me, I'm not. What I'm doing is I'm taking story aspects from the D&D game, and I am simply crafting stories kind of around the general tone of it. Like if I were to really do a game based on the Vampire the Masquerade setting, it would basically be about 5 assholes who don't get along at all, going to a manor house, having one guy's arm blown off, and then everyone going to be sacrificed by Dracula. That would be the story. Now, I know you might think, like, hey, that sounds pretty good,
that sounds
actually.
like an awesome story.
No. That would be the story. My story is not about that at all. It's about cops. But what I'm saying is I was inspired by the setting and the general events and some of the characters.
That's the end of our topics that we're discussing today.
Those are the big ones. That's kind of getting an
insight
into us, an insight into how we write and what kind of things we've written before. I think it might help with our credentials going forward, and you might get an insight into how we're judging a book, like why we are talking about books and why we aren't just running a bakery.
I don't want to say we're judging books as so much as just discussing them.
Exactly.
And what works and what doesn't, because we're very interested in writing, and the hope is that you and me and everybody involved will get better at writing or
discussing fiction. You know, it's become a pretty important part of our lives. And please send us money.
Wait, no.